What does it mean? How would you define actually a great strategy game? There are possibly more answers to this question, but I like to think of the following model. One of the players starts a plan in the early opening, and let's say playing on dark squares, and carries it out this plan all the way through the opening, middle game, late middle game, ending, and this game would cause the impression that it was everything forced. White made a plan, Black tried to put up some defense, but somehow he was lost from the beginning. So the plan was so effective that even though Black knew what he was facing, he could not prevent it. Well, of course, this is an utopia. Chess is quite complex. But I remember that when I was a kid, I sometimes had the feeling that Fischer won some of his game in this way. I mean, I had the feeling that he had seen it all from the beginning, which is obviously impossible. And much later, I came across Rubinstein's games, and Razovaev writes that Rubinstein was famous for his long plans. Again, the same feeling. You sit down, you shake hands, the great Akiba set up his plan, and then you just lose because the plan is too good. Well, again, things are relative, but it is interesting that I found such games in Tal's panoply. And the game I will show now is from the later part of his career. He was still fighting as a candidate. This is the playoff after the Montpellier candidate tournament with Timman, a very strong player in those years. He reached very high phases of the World Championship cycle. So let's see how Tal managed to implement this Fischer-Rubinstein philosophy. First of all, we see that knight d2, young Tal would never have played knight d2. He would always played knight c3 against Botvinnik, against all the French experts of the time. But okay, with the years, Tal became more flexible. So this line was increasingly popular in those years. Black has just discovered that he does not need to play queen b6 before breaking with f6. That the queen would stand well maybe on c7 or even on d8. And Tal actually, okay, here castle is the normal move, both sides castle, and then either bishop g5 or bishop f4 or all kind of moves. Actually, after castle, Black would play queen c7 according to those year standards. And Tal plays bishop f4, bishop f4 at once. Of course, strategically, the idea of the move is quite clear. White starts playing for the e5 square, and little by little for the dark squares in general. Okay, nowadays it's known that the position is not so simple if Black simply exchanges and castles. But of course, Timman felt some sort of provoking. I mean, if Black could do this so easily, then the variation would be not so good. So then he tried. He actually had analyzed it at home. According to Tal's confessions, Timman played quickly this phase of the game, so he had prepared against it, and actually it's an intense duel for the time being. So he took on f4, queen a5, logical move since White has weakened his king defense before castling, queen d2, and castle. Okay, this is not an ending yet. It's a queenless middle game. The position of the king on d2 is not easy to assess. Maybe the king will be useful. Maybe it will be exposed. And probably the players looked at it from different angles. We'll see how. now plays rook h1, attacking e6, and if black would have to defend it with rook e8, then white would be simply better. But okay, Timman had analyzed this. As I say, knight e4, there is a fourth sequence. Rook e4, so this check on e4 actually tries to take advantage of the exposed position of the king. Bishop d3 and knight takes d4. Well, black is slightly behind in development, but he has won a pawn. What could be white's idea? And now we see that Tal continues his plan of controlling, invading through the dark squares. And he continues his plan of activating the king. Now the position gets close, with every move closer to the ending. Some more exchanges are carried out, so the king belongs to the center, and according to the plan designed with the move bishop f4, the king advances on dark squares. And it will advance quite far. These small tactics somehow have the only part of being an auxiliary to the strategic plan. So the game went like this. Bishop d7 now, and king e5. Well, quite an interesting position, yes. We don't see very frequently such a fourth sequence leading to right after the opening to an ending, where white has such a perfect mobilization of pieces. And that king is threatening to go to d6. The extra pawn is in danger. If white retrieves the pawn, then it will be in trouble. The d7 bishop is becoming bad quite soon. So actually, white's compensation is quite obvious, and it's not easy to say whether white has really winning chances, or if black should equalize. The simple thing is that, okay, it's a very interesting approach, and white's play was very sound. And from Tal's point of view, forcing an early transfer, simplifying to an ending, is quite surprising, let's say, from the perspective of what people think about him. Timman found now the best way to solve some of his problems. A6. His main problem is the bad bishop, so he needs to exchange it. He does not want to stick to his extra pawn. He wants to exchange the bishop, even if this costs him the e6 pawn. And by exchanging the bishop, he also clears the path for his d pawn. So this is very consistent play, actually. King d7. Whoa, what a career! King e1, king d2. Just follow. What an active king we had here. Bishop b5. Bishop takes. A takes b5. Rook takes e6. Actually, not all rook endings are drawn, despite what they say. There is a very sharp ending. It is obvious that white is better because his king is very active. I mean, he just needs to clear the path to the d pawn, to keep it and to remove the black coinside pawns, and then it would be a winning position. But black still has resources. Now, well, rook a2 would be quite bad because after rook e2, white would defend everything, and then he will just, with his king, he will just get all these pawns. d4 is not dangerous; it doesn't threaten anything. I mean, white defends everything and then wins with his b pawn somehow. So what Timman did was correct. He played d4. The problem now is that the pawn becomes dangerous, and in combination with a check on d8, it's not easy to get rid of it. Rook e2, d3, rook d2. And rook c8. Again, rook takes a2 is the position we have seen before. So rook c8. Timman is playing quite well so far. The problem is that for white is that there is this threat of rook c2, and also that rook takes d3 does not work because of rook d8, winning the rook. Okay, I must admit that from this moment, with the initial plan has somehow lost his contour. It was about dark squares. But okay, the invasion of the dark squares actually has finished. Now black is not weak on dark squares anymore. There are just empty squares in the center. But we can also say that the advantage has been transformed somehow, because part of the invasion was through dark squares was the king's activity. And if there is one term that would describe the position, it would be the white king's overwhelming activity. It's a fantastic piece. So we can still say that the whole concept Tal had initially is still the dominating threat of the game. This ending is not easy to analyze, but one thing is clear: for black is very difficult to defend. Before rook c2, well, if black does nothing, then white just removes his pawns from the second rank, and at some point he plays something like king d7 and rook a d3, and so black should not delay his counterplay. Rook takes d3. Rook a2 was played now. It's actually it was considered to be the decisive mistake or a very important mistake. But I think black has problems anyway. I have analyzed such lines. This queen c5. Black manages to set up some sort of fortress, but it's never so reliable. I mean, white would give up some pawn and get to the b7 pawn, and then the difference of king's activity makes the life very dangerous for black. For instance, this black can start some counterplay, but okay, it's a little bit slow, and his king is passive and also exposed to checks that would make the advance of the b pawn faster. So it's not really a clear draw, let's say. The problem for black is that he has to make choices between quite unpleasant endings. Rook takes x2, okay, he must have had his reasons. Now white has to defend his pawn like this. Now rook c2 keeps the king away from the pawns. But the position is not easy to hold anyway. b6, now black is simply waiting. h4. And of course, the b4 pawn should be kept. The h4 pawn is not so important. And well, we see the typical scenario now. This is already very bad for black. He has his pawn down, and he has no time for counterplay. h6 takes the g5 square away from the rook. Well, black is struggling, but it's not. White still can defend his king side, and in the meanwhile make progress with his pawn. It's obvious that okay, now he manages to retrieve the pawn, but it's too late. Rook c6 is an important move, setting up a deadly mechanism. Of course, the black king has to go back in order to defend the g6 pawn, because otherwise he would have no chances for counterplay with h5. But then it just means that after this he will be too slow. Timman resigned here in view of such a variation. Now the threat is rook b6. So he has to give up the rook earlier than he would have liked to. And tragically for black, he cannot get too far with his pawns. The king is cut on the third rank, so just kill the pawns. So this may seem like an effortless win, and actually, of course, White played a natural game, and for Black it was very difficult move by move to think what is the lesser evil. It's not an easy task. But why was it so easy? I mean, what was actually the main problem to overcome with White before winning such an easy game, let's say? Because it looks like an easy game. You have to design a good plan, a long-term plan, which Tal did, and you have to trust it. Obviously, Tal trusted, because it was a match. The victory in every game would be very important. So he trusted that you could win a game by simplifying and by having an active king. And also, I believe that it reveals the harmony reigning in chess. I mean, we had an opening innovation and some small tactical things, starting with 94, and simplification to a better ending, positional pawn sacrifice, and the well-played ending. So actually, it takes a lot of things to be a strong player, and I believe that Tal proved entirely in this game that he was quite a strong player, not only a tactician.